Now, let me tell you how this all fits together, but before then, let me tell you another motto I have. This is from Rilke, and probably you didn't know I knew so much about poetry. But it is, Matthew knows. Matthew knows a lot, because we talk a lot about a lot of different topics. But I really believe, let me be with those who know secret things or else alone. And it's kind of my motto. I'm really looking for people who know something special. I'm looking for people who can add something to my life, who I can add to their life. I want to be with people who know something different. I want to know people who know something different than what I know. And those are the kind of people that I try to seek out. But let me show you how it all fits together. And it's very interesting that Masao Tori is here. I was working as a consultant for communication classes and companies. I was a consultant for buchos and kachos. I was doing this work helping people go overseas. I was doing this work in Ibunka communication. And believe me, it was not satisfying for me. I didn't like it. I wanted to do something big, like what I was doing at the university. And one of my friends said to me, Bob, you should work with CEOs. I go, what? He said, no, Bob, you're a professor at Keio University. You're not stupid. You should work with CEOs. I said, me? Work with CEOs? And you know, once I got over the hump, CEOs start calling me and said, Bob, we'd like to work with you. Can you be a coach for me? And then today, Masao Tori is one of the first people that I interviewed. He was the president of Sharing. Is that right? Down in Osaka, and I went down to interview him, and I appreciate everyone coming tonight. Mark, I haven't seen in such a long time. But once you put your mind to something, it happens. Once you put your energy into something, it happens. So I was able to lose that kind of what I thought was boring for me at the time and get into something a little bit more interesting. So I got a push, and then I came here to Keio, and I created a community at Keio, a community of wonderful, wonderful people to work with. You can see some of the pictures here. And the message that I tried to give to the students was to be great and do something different. And you can see also to have some fun. Now, I always tell the students that it's more important to have good questions than it is to have good answers. Anyone can memorize answers. The hard part is, I know some of these guys here, they're economic researchers and they're good ones. The hard thing is the questions. The answers you can find out. Anyone can find those out. But the hard thing is asking the questions. I train my students on how to ask good questions. When you go for the interviews, oh man, there's so many places doing coaching for interviews that they've heard all those stock answers. Come up with some good questions. That's the hard thing. That's the hard part. So what I love about the students in my classes is they say to me, how can I live a more meaningful life? How can I really put myself out there? How can I take more risk? The students in my class, they ask really, really interesting questions like, how can I make a contribution to the world? Those are the kinds of questions that they ask. And of course, I don't know the answer. But the questions where you don't know the answer are the questions where you learn the most. That's what gets you on a path that's going to teach you something, a path that's going to do something different. And I'm really happy that the students here at Keio University, they never ask me what's on the test. They don't ask me, how can I get an A? They don't ask me, why did I get a C? They ask me, can you get me a connection into Google? Can you help me get a job in London? Can you help me go somewhere else? Can you help me become a professor? They ask me beautiful questions, questions that really touch my heart, questions that make me, that I don't know the answer to. But they're interesting questions. And it's really, really important to ask good questions. Now, I told you careers like this, right? And about 8 years ago, I didn't know I could continue or not. I'm 64 now. I was 58 then. Professor Seike, President Seike said I have a lot of energy, but the medicine? No, it's not the medicine. I said, I had all this energy. I don't know, can I do this anymore? Can I teach these classes anymore? Can I see these nice faces every year? I'm doing something different. Can I make a contribution to Keio University? And I really wondered whether I could. I thought I'd go back into consulting because then, you know, I was working for all these banks from New York. They would fly me in business class to, you know, China, everywhere else to do all this fancy consulting, and it was really very, very interesting for me. But I said, no, before I quit Keio University, I got to try something else. I'm going to go on a trip. And if you ever find that your yarigai is going down, that your passion is going down, go on a trip somewhere. And I went on a trip not to stay in five-star hotels, not to lie on the beach, but I decided I would go backpacking. I decided I would get rid of all my baggage, my professor, my PhD, my business, my blah, blah. I'm going to go backpacking. And I went backpacking with a bag on my back. And I went to countries like Vietnam. I went to countries like Cambodia. I went to countries like Thailand. I went to countries like Laos. And every place I went, I stayed in a hotel that was no more than $10 per night. Sen-in was the maximum. And I would never, ever, ever go on a plane. I only went on public transportation, like motorbikes, or I went on buses. And the buses that I went on were often hijacked by people who came on with rifles and killed people, too. I went on one bus in Laos where guys were killed. I don't know if this was courage or stupidity, but the people were killed on the bus the day before. And then I got on the bus and no one got killed. But there were chickens on the bus. There was all sorts of things. But maybe because I looked like this, I didn't talk to many professors during this trip. I didn't talk to many business people during this trip. The amazing thing is I talked to artists. Everywhere I went, I talked to artists. And I had always loved art, but because I had focused so much on this Keio job and my consulting job, that I really let the art go. And I want to tell you, some of you play the piano, some of you are artists, some of you are flower arrangers. The passion never dies. It's like a love that you had in high school. And if you're single, you wonder, is she still single? I wonder, oh, Sally? No. So I had this passion for art, and I really, really loved art. And everywhere I went, I talked to artists. I went to art school. I went to Laos. I met all these wonderful artists. And when I came back, I said to Hitoshi, all right, I'm not going to quit Keio. I'm not going to become a full consultant. We're going to open an art gallery. And to his credit, he said, yes, and I'll help you. I cannot draw a straight line. You saw those diagrams. Some of you have been in my classes. You know those diagrams that I have, right? They're not beautiful. You try to imitate them, but they're not they can't be imitated. So we opened up an art gallery. So we started first in our house, and then we went to Nakameguro, and then after Nakameguro, we went to Nihonbashi, and I'm telling you, this changed my life. Everything changes your life, but this really changed my life because I found creativity in myself that I never, ever expected. And this is a shot of what the gallery looks like. People say to me, the gallery, it's so different than your teaching. I say it's the same as teaching. Art inspires people. Art changes people's lives. Art breaks down stereotypes. Let me tell you something. People think that Japanese art is Mount Fuji and Takeshi Murakami and a few others. No, that's not what Japanese art is about. There's all kinds of Japanese art. There's all kinds of ways that people express themselves. So I saw what art can do. And it's the same as my teaching. With my gallery, I'm trying to inspire people. With my gallery, I'm changing people's lives. People walk into the gallery and they're transformed. They're amazed. And the other thing that I'm doing in the gallery, and I've done this at Keio too, is at Keio I was able to create a community of wonderful people like you. People who know each other, people who help each other, people who take their classes, and it goes way beyond the class time. But with the gallery, we also create a community of artists and customers. And some of my artists are here today. And we help people, and not just the artists. We help the people who buy the art because it changes their life. And we just had a nomikai, and it was so much fun. Hitoshi gave a speech trying to encourage the artists. We all got drunk. We had a great time. Can't remember the kind of food, but I remember we drank a lot. We had a great time. So the gallery is really about creating a community. The gallery is really trying to do something. And we're in Nihonbashi in Bakurocho, and if you haven't come, please come. Because we're trying to rebuild Bakurocho. And it sounds like a very, very weird thing that a gaijin opens up an art gallery selling Japanese art, trying to rebuild a Japanese neighborhood, but that's what I'm trying to do. We're trying to rebuild Nihonbashi. Because Nihonbashi used to be for kimonos. Nihonbashi used to be for some kind of traditional Japanese food. But now we're trying to make it into an art area. And we have 20 galleries that are there. And we're working our heads off trying to get people to come there. And I hope you'll come there. Because buildings are being remodeled. We really feel like we can save this neighborhood. We can go way, way beyond what we want to do with a gallery. And this is one of the artists that we work with. When I met this artist 6 years ago, his name is Ryota Aoki. Some of you know him because he had a full 1-hour program on NHK. But when I met him, he had no toilet. He had no shower. He lived in Gifu, and he still lives in Gifu. And he made work that was so different that many people said, no, that's really not Japanese work. But I found him. Other galleries found him as well. Now I'm glad to say he has a bathroom. He has a shower. But he also has 1-month shows in Paris and 2 1-month shows in New York. So we're really working hard to promote Japanese art outside of Japan. And it really hurts me when Japanese people come into my gallery and they say 2 things. Sometimes they say, this isn't Japanese art, because they have a very, very stereotyped idea of what Japanese art is. And the other thing that really hurts me that people say is, are there any young, good Japanese artists? Because they never see it. They never have a chance to see it. They don't have a chance to go to galleries. And please, some of you I know have come. Please come and take a look. And look at this. Look at this guy. There's Jun Ogata over there. He's sitting here today. But artists are wonderful people to deal with. I think we can learn a lot about business from artists. And artists have a lot of courage. The work that Jun Ogata does, you can see he paints it first with white, then with black, then with silver, then with gold, then with purple. And then, like magic, he takes a cloth and takes off some paint, and it could ruin the painting or it could make the painting. That takes courage. He works so, so hard on that painting, and he could ruin it in a minute. If you do ceramics, if you do painting, if you do anything like that, you could ruin it when you put it in the kiln. You could ruin it when it stops. We have another artist named Zhu Wei who is from China. He does Chinese ink painting. Every time you apply some of the Chinese ink, the paper could tear and ruin the painting. That takes courage to keep at it. This artist is another artist that I work with, Wu Tran Trong. He also works on paper. But you can see his work is political. His father was a dissident writer. Young man at 22 years old was the top artist in the Hanoi Fine Arts University. And they did the thing that was the kiss of death for him. They sent him to Paris to study. And when he went to Paris, he said, everything I know in Vietnam is bad. Everything I know about art is bad. And in fact, when I went to Vietnam and saw the art there, they were painting pictures of Stalin and Lenin. That's not what an artist wants to do. An artist wants to express themselves. But this artist came out with very political work, and he was kicked out of Vietnam for 15 years. That takes courage. And only now, when things are loosening up in Vietnam, is he able to come back. And you might say, okay, Bob, that's okay. That's art. That's different. And I want to tell you, after 7 years in this business and so many years of teaching, we can learn a lot from artists. And there's really not that much different between art and business in terms of what we can learn. And I want to give you a couple examples of companies. And this is one company that I really love, Muji. You know, Muji wasn't always a successful company. It's a no-brand brand, the brand no brand, you know what it is? You know, all this stuff that's so great and so tasty and so yummy and, you know, so normal.